Hey, what's up and welcome to another DigiNauts video. Today we'll be looking at a method for generating banners and other images for websites using the Photoshop Generator feature. Let's jump right in. Speed is an important factor when it comes to a website. It greatly impacts user experience, improves your ad quality, improves conversions, and increases the amount of time they spend on your site. It's for this reason that we have to ensure images are always well optimized for web so that they load as fast as possible. And it's completely impossible to do this without compromising on image quality. When generating images, there are really three aspects to consider. The type of file used plays a big role in page speed. JPEG is what's called a lossy image format, which means that it's possible to reduce a file size by reducing the quality of the image. I would always recommend that you use JPEG for all your web assets, unless you're in need of a transparent background, in which case I would recommend PNG files. The second factor is the actual size of the image or its resolution. Most stock photographs are much larger than 4K when you download them, which is why they need to be resized for web. The most common screen size right now is 1920 pixels wide, and I generate my images at this width. High-resolution monitors like 4K are however becoming increasingly popular, and you can generate larger banners depending on your audience. It is also possible to make your website load different sized images in response to the browser size, but that's not something we'll cover today. The last factor we'll want to look at is the quality setting of your JPEG when exporting it. The quality setting controls how lossless your image is, and it essentially allows you to reduce a file size by sacrificing some quality. This reduction in quality is for the most part hardly noticeable. Now that we've looked at the theory, let's see how Generator can help us solve all three of these problems easily. When Adobe released Generator in 2013, I was blown away by how much it improved my workflow. I'm actually quite surprised it's not much more widely used. Generator is a really simple feature that allows you to name the layers in your Photoshop file as if it was a file, which then outputs images automatically as you work. Let's jump into Photoshop and see how that works. So I've created a new Photoshop document. I've set the width to 1920 as I mentioned earlier, and I've also set the height to 600, which is the height of the banners that I'd like to implement on my site. I've also added the stock photography to my canvas, and I've resized it and moved it into position, and we're now ready to turn it into a web-friendly banner. So in order to use Generator, there's essentially three things you need to remember. The first thing is you have to save your file, so you can see here that I've saved my file as banners.psd. The second thing you need to do is go to File, Generate, and click on Image Assets. So now whenever we rename our layers to a file name, it will automatically go and save those images in the same folder that you saved your Photoshop file, which is why it's important that you save it in a place that makes sense. So to demonstrate, I'm going to go to this layer, which is my stock photography, and I'm going to rename it to something that makes sense for a website banner. So now I've renamed my file to websitebanner.jpg. So now we're going to switch over to a file explorer where we can see the results of our work. So if I go into this assets folder, which is where I've essentially saved my Photoshop file, you can see that it has now created a new folder here called banners-assets. This folder is automatically created by Photoshop the moment you name your files correctly and enable the Generator feature. So if I click into this, you can see as simple as that, it's generated my banner file. It's the right size, and we're almost done. So now that we've taken care of the first two aspects, which was the file type, which we've now used JPEG for, and the image resolution, which we've gone and set to 1920, we can go and tackle the last problem, which is to set the quality of the JPEG. Now, Generator has some very nifty built-in features that allows you to do this easily. So all you have to do is go to your layer, double-click it to edit its name, and at the end, we're going to add the quality that we want this JPEG to be. In the case of Photoshop Generator, that is usually a number between 1 and 10. So just to test this, we're going to put quality of this JPEG at 1. So now it's automatically going to save this file because we've made a change. And if I go back to my image browser and I open this up, you can see that JPEG image is starting to lose a lot of quality because we've set that quality really low. If I jump back into Photoshop and I change this to 10, you will now see that the quality of the image is overall much better. So now that we've seen how you can apply a quality setting to the JPEG, let's pick something that makes sense for us. This image has a lot of detail, so you don't want to reduce the quality by too much. I'm going to, for this one, recommend that we do 7. So now if I go back to my final output, you can see that the image has pretty good quality. And if I look at the file size, we can see that it's only 302 kilobytes. That is essentially how you would use Photoshop Generator to generate a banner. Now let's say you wanted to make some edits to this. If I were to add a new layer on top of this and add a transparent gradient, you'll notice that it did not show up in our generated image, and this is because the layer is sitting on top of the actual file that we named. This is actually really easy to solve. All you have to do is group your layers, and instead of renaming your image to a file name, you're going to rename your group. So let's do that now. I'm going to just rename this layer so that it's no longer called website banner, but instead just called something generic so it doesn't output a file. Next, I'm going to select my two layers, and I'm going to click on the group icon to put them into a group. And now, the last thing I want to do is double click the name, and I'm going to name this website-banner.jpg with our flag to set the quality to 7. If I switch over to my file browser now, you can see here that the gradient has been applied. It really is as simple as just grouping your layers into a way that makes sense, and then naming that folder the same way as you would name a layer. So that's it for this generator tutorial. I encourage you to play around with its rich features and use it to generate other types of assets like product photography, icon sets, or even slides for your YouTube like I did today. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and please subscribe if you want to grow your digital skills in the future. See you next time.